Hey everyone, me Kevin here. In this video, we are going to break down the Raise the Wage Act, which is not only a bill that gives us some insight into how the minimum wage will be raised and how quickly and to what levels for what period of time, but we're also going to go through a new fact sheet that gives us some more insights, especially into what's going to happen after we get to a $15 minimum wage, and what about restaurant workers or youth workers or disabled workers? How do they get affected by this? Folks, there's a lot to cover in this. Let's jump right into it right after, of course, I mentioned that you should get yourself 4 totally free stocks. You sign up with Robinhood via the link down below. I have a very special link that will get you 4 totally free stocks. You get 1 free stock when you sign up and 3 additional free stocks if you link your bank account before February 1st. Okay, let's get into the bill and then we'll get into the fact sheet. This is pretty exciting. So here it is. Well, it's at least exciting for a lot of workers, and I was a minimum wage worker for many years, and this excites me. I know many business owners are going to have some chest palpitations over this, but don't worry, we're not going to, for those businesses, we're not going to a $15 minimum wage tomorrow. We've got some time before we're going to get to a $15 minimum wage. So the current federal minimum wage is $7.25. Now keep in mind, when I say federal minimum wage, that means that is the floor, the national floor. You cannot get paid less than $7.25. Some states, though, like California, have a higher minimum wage already, so the federal minimum wage doesn't apply then. Joe Biden has talked about using executive action to require that federal workers be paid a $15 per hour minimum wage much sooner, but that is different from having a national floor where Congress mandates that every business pay someone at least $15 per hour. So this is the Raise the Wage Act of 2021. That is what they are titling this. And let's jump on in and see when the minimum wage is going up. So here we go. Within or upon the effective date, which is probably when this bill will get passed, the minimum wage will go up to $9.50 per hour. My guess is this is going to get passed with the stimulus package, the $1.9 trillion stimulus package, which means we would probably see this in March of 2021. So by April of 2021, we should be getting paid $9.50 an hour at the latest. That is the hope right now, and we'll see when this bill gets passed, and certainly we'll see if this bill even gets incorporated into the stimulus package. It might not, though Democrats are pretty dead set on including this. Republicans say no, the minimum wage should not be increased. Now, Democrats do say that they can get this bill passed without Republicans. And they would do that through a budget reconciliation measure, which some people do wonder, wait a minute, what does the budget, the United States budget, have to do with minimum wage, since this is a cost paid by businesses and not the government? But staff for Bernie Sanders and other Democrats say, fear not, we're going to get it done through budget reconciliation if we need to. So Democrats are basically telling us this is happening. Then $11 per hour beginning 1 year after the effective date. So 1 year after the effective date would be 2022, would be somewhere around probably the same. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being something like a March 31, but it could be something like March 15th of 2022. Then it looks like we are going to go to another $1.50 increase beginning 2 years after the effective date. So that would be March of 2023. Then $14 per hour 3 years after the effective date, and then $15 per hour 4 years after the effective date. Then, beginning 5 years thereafter, they're going to scale minimum wage up based on what other median wages are going up by. So if, for example, we're at $15 an hour and then in 2026, other wages are going up by 2%, that would mean minimum wage would automatically adjust upwards to $15.30. So that would prevent minimum wage from kind of stagnating the way it has been. So here's the fact sheet. After more than a decade with no increase in the federal minimum wage, the longest period in U.S. history, there is now no place in America where a full-time worker making the federal minimum wage can afford rent, food, and other essentials. As a result, millions of our nation's workers, including many of our celebrated essential workers, are working full-time jobs but are still struggling to make ends meet. 1 in 9 U.S. workers is paid wages that leave them in poverty even when working full-time year-round. The Raise the Wage Act will give millions of Americans a long overdue raise and lift struggling workers and their families out of poverty. Now, the Raise the Minimum Wage Act would not only gradually raise the minimum wage from $7.25 to $15 per hour, as we saw, but it indexes future increases in the minimum wage to the median growth rates of wages to ensure the value of the minimum wage does not again erode over time. It also, this is big right here, it also guarantees that tipped workers are paid at least the federal minimum wage by phasing out the sub-minimum wage for tipped workers. This meant that restaurant workers in some states, they could literally get paid like $3 an hour as long as their tips brought them up to at least $7.25 per hour. Well, now you get paid at least $7.25 per hour plus tips on top of that. Big change. California already does that. I used to work for Red Robin. We definitely enjoyed that, and so now the rest of the country will be able to benefit from that as well in terms of restaurant workers. Guaranteed teen workers are paid at least the full federal minimum wage by phasing out the rarely used sub-minimum wage for youth workers, and end wage certificates for workers with disabilities, providing that those workers end up getting paid less than the minimum wage. So now they get bumped up to minimum wage as well. This would give 32 million Americans a raise, and it would give an average pay increase of $3,300 per affected worker. Now, I think, look, if you're working for $7.25 and you're working full time, you'd go from making like $13,000 to making $27,000. That's way more than $3,300. It's a huge benefit. But I think they're saying this average because other states like California with a big population already have a higher minimum wage. It rewards essential workers. And here's something that, you know, Congress has been talking about doing for months and months over the last year here, and they really haven't been doing. And so now it seems like they're branding this minimum wage increase as a way to finally reward the essential worker and frontline workers who have demonstrated their importance in our community and throughout the pandemic. The Congressional Budget Office previously reported that the effect of this would basically take 1.3 million people out of poverty, including 600,000 children, and would pay for roughly 6 in 10 working families whose family income is below the poverty line. It would reduce racial and gender inequality with 60% of women receiving this benefit, or 60% of people, 60% of minimum wage workers are women, in other words, and they would receive a benefit from this. Nearly 1/3 of all black workers and 1/4 of Latinos would get a raise as well. It would accelerate the recovery. They basically see this as a style of stimulus, and that's why Biden is including this in the stimulus plan, because we can now spend more money if we have more money. Obviously, that makes sense. And this is where you see that minimum wage obviously going up and then getting indexed to median wages going forward to future years. There you go. That is the Raise the Wage Act. If you found this helpful, consider subscribing, consider sharing. Make sure to get your 4 free stocks with Robinhood. And folks, we'll see you in the next video.